How's it? And welcome to this session on GitHub projects and issues as it stands of March 2022. My name is Gordon Beaming. I'm a father, husband, DevOps specialist at Dorifco, triathlete, and a Microsoft MVP in the GitHub and Azure DevOps space. As I mentioned, today we'll be going through projects and issues. And basically what that will mean is we'll be going through what issues are, how you can customize issues, what projects are, and how the two of those play nicely together. And then we'll flex a little bit on the other planning tools because projects and issues are amazing in GitHub. So what are GitHub issues? Essentially, it's just some attributed markup. There's different ways that you can create issues. You can customize them at an organization level or locally in a specific repository. You can also transfer them between one repo and another if someone does create them potentially in a wrong repository. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I've got my repo here that I created called Silver Robot, and that's what I'm going to be using to demo the projects and issues today. First thing we're going to do is click on the Issues tab, click on New Issue, and then at the bottom here we're just going to say Open a blank issue. For this we're going to need to specify a title. So let's just go and say the login screen doesn't show the login button. Cool. And then because that's not really that much information for someone to go by, let's go and add a description quickly. So just say we expect a login button before typing in the email address. Sounds good. And on the side here, you can assign that to someone. So we'll just assign that to the bot. We're going to say that this is a bug and say that's a good first issue because I guess maybe we have some context into what that looks like. And then we're going to say this is set for the first sprint milestone. We'll go ahead and submit that issue. Also, do a preview of it so you can see it's basically just normal text. We're going to go mark that up a little bit, so bold the login button, put the typing in italics, and then we'll go ahead and submit that. So now we've gone ahead and created our first issue. Very simple. The problem with this though is that that's not much for somebody to go by. And as someone who owns something either an open source or closed source, you really want to guide your users into what information you need when they log a bug. So let's try this one out. So in this case here, we've got a bug report issue template. For the title of it, we're going to say dark mode login screen. Sorry, dark mode on login screen isn't that dark. We're just going to use that same title to describe our bug. You can see here we've given some sort of hints to the person logging the bug of sort of what they should expect to give us. So we've said, please describe the bug for us. So when you say, I'd expect the dark mode to almost be black, but it's more gray. The steps to reproduce the bug, is just changing it to dark mode. Then watch how it's not that dark, or watch how it's not dark enough, should I say. And the expected behavior is that it should be darker than it is. Not that hard. We don't have any screenshots. We don't have any desktop specific info because it's just in the web, so we can go and delete that. Some additional context is my monitor is pretty old. I don't know, maybe that helps him a bit. So we go ahead and submit that issue. You can see it's a little bit better. So the layout here at least has some of the steps that the owner of this repo had asked us for. So we deleted some of the stuff that we felt wasn't relevant, but most of it was there. So next up, we're going to go try this other type, which is issue forms. So in this case, we've actually prefixed the title by just saying bug, because that feels like a convention that we want to do. So we're going to go type in The login form is not docked to the right on the home page. The first thing that we asked here is for an email address, and then we asked what happened. So as part of the template here, and I'll go into what those templates look like later, there's a nice description field here. So we can go and type in, when I returned to the home page, the login form was in the middle of the page. If we wanted to, we could preview that and mark that up. And you can see here we've got a drop list on which browsers this was. So we choose Chrome and Edge. We don't have any logs, and we agree to the code of conduct. Now when we log it, visually it looks the same, but we're able to provide a whole bunch, sort of a richer experience. You can see that we've also labeled that as a bug straight away from that template. And all of this at the moment is driven from these community health files, which there's a link in this repo. So all this stuff is public, so you can go read more on it. But essentially it runs out of this .github repo, and in the .github folder, there's an issue templates folder, which has these templates saved. So we've got this config.yaml, and there it says that we want to allow people to put blank issues. Here's our markdown file for our template. So you can see there's that format that we got, and then here is what the bug report form data looks like. So this is a YAML layout. It's a little bit more structured of sort of what the inputs are, what field types we want, what the options are in those fields, and this is then used to generate that more structured form, which we saw earlier. Okay, so next I suppose we should go look at, I suppose let's customize one of these. So just in the, bear in mind this is still in our community health files, so this will affect all repos that haven't overridden the templates. We're going to go and add a step 5 to the repo reproduce steps. So we just say wait, and it fixes itself. Maybe we need a reboot. And then we're going to go commit that change, and because we're using the dot editor, that change goes straight in. So now when we go and create a new issue, not the form one, sorry, when you go create the template issue, and we can see that step 5 shows up already for us. But often you need these templates to be specific to your repo specifically, right? So it's great that you have some org standards, but that doesn't always work to help you get great feedback specifically to what your product is. So I'm going to open that Silver Robot repo, and I'm going to go create a YAML config, and the first thing I'm going to do is say that I don't want to allow blank issues, because whenever people create blank issues, they don't give us enough information. And then I'm going to provide a contact link which says go and read the docs. For the markdown, we're going to keep it very simple. There's a description, steps to reproduce, expected behavior, what the app info is, and additional context. Very simple. And then for the bug form, we're going to go and do the same thing again. Just, yeah, instead of us having placeholder text that someone has to delete, we've got a nice placeholder text that would actually disappear as someone starts typing. So basically 2 forms that's pretty much the same thing, but this is now local to our repo specifically. So you see now if we go and create a new template, we've only got these 3 options, which are the 3 options that we specifically created. If we say read docs, it goes off to that site. And then if we go and say create a form, we've got that placeholder text there, which we can then go and type over. We've got the app info that we specifically selected, and our code of conduct again. But creating that form would be the exact same as before. If we go to edit the issue form, you can see that we've given like a nice markup of what that form would look like. So sort of some of the information that would come in there. And there's an editor that on the right hand side will give you sort of the docs inline for what you can and can't do inside the YAML forms, so you don't have to go off to the site, which makes it quite convenient for if you are just editing that in place. And then from here, as you would expect, you can go ahead and commit that. And then if you go and add a new issue, you saw that we removed the triage label, so now only the bug label is left. And then just to, I suppose, bring that full circle, if we go back here and make another change, so remember we had that prefix already that had bug. If we go and say enter a title as part of that prefix, just to demonstrate that that obviously doesn't make any effect because we've got our local changes. If I go make that bug report again, it stays empty. So that's how you would do sort of local issues to your repo. And then the last thing I just want to show you with this is if you do have an issue that's part of another repo, say someone's created that in the wrong space, or sometimes you want a repo to sort of act as your funnel for your product, you can just scroll down to the bottom right, hit transfer, choose the repo that you want to transfer it to, and then click transfer issue. And that's all. That issue will now form part of your other repo. Great stuff. So next up, we want to take a look at GitHub projects. So like they are a convenient way to track work across repos. And the nice thing about how the GitHub projects works is that you get custom fields per project that you can sort of attribute each issue with, which is pretty handy for being able to track and basically make each project not have a hack with sort of labels or having form data that's sort of not relevant to most projects. It's quite neat. I'll show you in a bit and then you'll see that yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. We're going to cover some of the configuration that you can have for the project, and then we're going to track some work in the project and show you how you can turn or how you can use issues with the project, and then show a little bit more issues coolness that exists for projects and issues. So when you start off by creating a new project, so we'll go over to the projects tab. We're going to create a new project and we're going to create the beta type of project. The first thing we'll do is just give us a name of Silver Robot Madness. Then we'll need to go over to the project settings and we're going to give it a description quickly. So planning for some crazy Silver Robot features. And then we want to give it a little readme, which is useful for when someone reads this so that they don't just see plain text. Plain text is boring. So you'll see if we open this little blade, the readme shows there and you get the nice link off to the repo and stuff. It's quite nice. We're going to stay away from the danger zone at the bottom for now. The first thing we'll do is go over to manage access. You can see here, you can set your base role. So by default, anyone in your organization, what privileges do they have for this project? You can go and add more contributors to the project. Under fields, at the moment we have one field which is called status, and it has three options, which is to do, in progress, and done. If we quickly take a look at workflows, see very basic workflows here. So when an issue or pull request is moved to close, change the status to done. If you click around, you can see other workflows which are currently disabled. But it's very basic stuff. So when something happens to an issue in a repo, how does that affect the item that's living in the project space? So we're going to go ahead and pretend we're busy planning some stuff. So we need to create a modern login form. We're going to need to send a welcome back email for the person that logs in. We're going to need to update the forgot password form as well and set up a mail server. For this project specifically, we're going to want a business value field that has the options of medium, low, and high. We can just hit save on that. And then what we want to do is, because we do want to track these issues and actually go do some code on these issues, we're going to convert these issues or these project issues or draft issues to actual full issues. So we're going to drop some text there. So when a user hasn't logged in for 6 months, send them a welcome back email. And we had some steps that's part of that, which we'll dive into next. So we click on that issue, we can go ahead and convert that to an issue. From the draft issue that pops up, you can also go and convert to an issue from that form. And I hope something that you'll take away from this is sort of no matter what context you're in inside issues, you can always sort of dive into where, like, what feels like it makes sense. So in this case, we're adding milestone. But as soon as we click milestone, it says, well, before you can set this, you have to convert this to an issue so that we know which milestones you want. So we'll choose Silver Robot, and immediately it asks us, cool, is that sprint 1 or sprint 2? But you can see on the left-hand side, that's created this as an issue for us now. And then the setup mail server, we're just going to leave this one as a draft issue. If we click into the send welcome back email, you can see there's a whole bunch of checkboxes. And so we can check that and we can say, okay, that's done. So the store welcome back email, that one specifically is maybe a little bit more work than what it looks like it should be. And for some reason, so the convert isn't showing. So I'm just going to edit that quickly and update the comments again. I think it's got to do that I set that originally from a draft issue. You see there it popped up letting me convert that to an issue. So now this is letting me say, well, that one step, instead of me making like hierarchical checkboxes on the previous page, I'll just convert that to an issue of its own, and I can go describe how that works, and then I can reference this issue specifically in my commits as well. And at the top you can see that there's one of 2 issues. You can also see that this is tracked in issue 11. And if you go back to issue 11, you can see there's one of 3 at the top. On the right-hand side, you can see our project showing there with our business value field that we customly added. And from here, we can go and say, okay, well, this is medium priority for that project. So we don't have to go through to our project itself to set these values. And we'll also set the milestone for this one to sprint 2 while we're here. And then we can navigate back to our project again. And earlier we didn't save this layout, so our milestone field would have disappeared. So whenever you see that little blue thing there, just remember that you need to go and click Save Changes if you want to save this. But you can see that Sprint 2 milestone was set on that issue that we went and set from the issue side specifically. And then I think that is all there. Let's go set some values around here quickly. So we set the business value to high. I set all of those to high. Set the milestone to sprint 1. Sprint 1. That will be good. The last one's a draft issue, so we can't set the milestone there. If we go into this issue, we'll go and close this issue inside the repo. And then remember, we do have the workflow on for this. But I'll go back in there now. If we look at the milestone, you can see that we have the milestone shows obviously one closed because we've just closed that. There's still 2 open issues for sprint 1. And then from here, we'll jump back. I think we should jump back to the project. Oh, wait, I suppose to jump back to it, you can see on this repo, because in this case, the Silver Robot Madness is a project that is handy for it, we'll go link it directly to this project. So if we go to the projects from this repo, you can see it's linked at the bottom there. And that's just an easy way to navigate back to it. But you can see here the status shows it's done, and we've got this sort of purple tick to say that that item itself is done. So yeah, remember, workflows are your friend. You can remove a lot of duplication by having them. So you can see that this one specifically, because the issue itself closed, that went and set that status to done, which was pretty cool. Awesome. And then the last thing that I said we were going to do is that we were going to flex on some other projects, right? Or some other planning tools with projects. And this for me was, I don't know if it's a weird thing or not, but probably one of the best things that I liked about how projects worked. So the first thing is we've got this pull request that showed up, right? Now, normally what you would do if you were tracking this as, say, part of your sprint, well, I say normally, what lots of teams will do is they'll have a specific item, because they need to remember that this is important, and maybe it's a huge pull request. They'll go say, merge important files from PR14. So I keep on using the Azure DevOps syntax. So hash 14 is the pull request we need to merge, and we're just going to go and create that, right? Except that's going to be a pain, because now we've got two things that we have to go work on. So instead, what we don't actually want to do that. What would be a lot cooler is if straight from our board, or our backlog, we can say that as part of this project, we need to go and finish item 14. So we're going to go search in that Silver Robot repo, and we're just going to say that that pull request is now part of our backlog. It's something that needs to get done. So we'll put that in the to-do state, and we'll mark the business value for this as medium. And that specifically will assign it to sprint 1. So that pull request is not an issue, but it forms part of our regular backlog like anything else would. And I think that's pretty cool. And now for this next part, although you'll have to trust me or look at the screen and hope that you can see that the mouse stays in the top corner for most of it. We're going to leave the mouse in the top corner. And I basically just clicked in the bottom so you could see first what, like, I don't know, get focused there, I guess. The adding of more issues here, I guess, before we do the mouse thing. We just navigate, like when you're adding stuff, obviously the up and down arrows, as you would expect, would work. To get into that box, you can push Control and Space, which will focus that box. You can move around with the arrow keys and hit space bar to go and set different values. Basically everything that you would expect from, I don't know, like an Excel editor, right? So when this was first shown to us, we said it was shown like most PMs and most people go and plan stuff in Excel because Excel is cool. And if you look at this, it has an Excel-like layout. If we look at the commands, if you push Control K, you pop up the commands menu, and then you can just type stuff and navigate away. So yeah, we're busy navigating to project views, going to workflows. If we come back to this project settings, all of that is just clicking around, well, not clicking around, typing around, I guess. So let's do something functional, because that little bit of navigation isn't really super helpful for productivity, right? So we're going to create a new view. We're going to say that we want to show the business value field. We also want to show the milestone field. And then this view is a bit confusing for us to consume. So we're going to group by the business value, just so we can group the items in the order we want. And then we actually want the high items at the top first. So first we'll go sort by business value, and because that does async, we'll then sort by business value again, so it does desync, and that'll put the high items at the top. And then, as I said earlier, if you see the blue dot there, you need to save. So we'll now go and save. But sometimes, oh gosh, I put a new column. I'll even put in Control N for new. But yeah, so we go new column or new view. Let's view our stuff as a board rather, because sometimes list view isn't that great. Control F pops you into the filter after you say that you want to filter by something. So yeah, we'll just say we want to filter by sprint 1. So now we've got a Kanban looking board showing us our work by progress, so to do in progress done, specifically filtered down to what's in there for sprint 1. And if we wanted to, we could go and say, well, actually, we prefer those columns to be by business value, because that is one of our multi-select columns. So we can just make a board by that specifically. And then, for, like I said, if you want to navigate around, we could just say that we want to go to view 1, and that'll all just work because I guess the easiest way to say is that it works as you expect it to, right? Which is awesome. So what else? GitHub, if you go off to this URL, you can see how GitHub uses projects themselves to highlight their roadmap. If you, what was my brain thinking? So issues, so they can do all the sort of normal things you'd expect, right? You can link them in conversations. So around these sort of social features, if you in a comment on an issue or a comment on a PR want to reference a specific issue, you don't have to put a link to that issue. You can just do hash and then put the ID of it, and it'll automatically put a link in line for you. When you create branches, like most other products, off an issue, you can go and say create a specific branch for this issue, and then that will automatically link for you. And then for today's demo links, if you do want to go look at the stuff that was created, the project link is there. So if you go to that DevStarOps.org that I've created, you can easily navigate around. But there's the direct link to the project and the repo that were used for today. And then also GitHub Actions can trigger off issues that have been created or updated as well. So for example, someone could create an issue, and in lots of the Microsoft repos, this happens already. So someone will create an issue, and a bot will take a first stab at classifying that or adding any default labels that need to exist for stuff to be triaged. Or if a pull request is created, a bot can check if someone signed the contribution forms and whatnot. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do with GitHub Actions, and like I said, specifically off issues as well, which in a lot of other products is a lot more complicated to do. So I know, like specifically in Azure DevOps, people have wanted to make little workflows off, like when a work item's created or when a work item's updated, to go and like update other fields or to trigger off other external workflows. And GitHub Actions is super lightweight, it can do all of that for you. So recap, GitHub projects and issues work with you and how you want to work. So I showed you that if you wanted to, you can change what your local issues, templates or forms look like. You can choose whether you want to allow for blank issues. And that sort of allows you to control or funnel how input gets to you. Your projects allow you to do custom fields per project. Those fields show up in line with the issues for whichever projects are referenced by the issue will all show up for the issue with the specific project fields, so you can set those in line from the issue without going to the project first. And then we also showed that you can do anything from the context that you're in, as I alluded to right now. When you, like I said, when you by the issue, you can change fields there for the project. When you're in the project, you can change fields that are very specific to the issue. So you don't have to navigate around to do the thing that you want to do now. Everything is just able to be done from where you are, as it sort of makes sense to you to do it. And then, everything, well, most of the stuff that I've shown today is still in beta. So it's only going to get a lot better from where it is now. But yeah, if you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments or ping me on Twitter or LinkedIn. If you go to devstarops.com, that's my profile page where you can find me on some other platforms as well. Awesome. Thank you. Cheers.